the Catholic Church, an institution that spans centuries, influencing millions of lives. But during World War II, its role remains a point of intense debate. As Europe burned under the shadow of fascism, the Church's actions, or lack thereof, in the face of Nazi atrocities and wartime politics have sparked controversy ever since. When World War II erupted in 1939, the Catholic Church found itself caught between faith and politics. Europe, the heart of Catholicism, was ravaged by conflict. Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler targeted Jews, dissidents and others for extermination, while Italy and Spain had fascist regimes that, at least publicly, aligned with the Church. At the center of this storm was Pope Pius XII, who was elected to the papacy just months before the war. His actions during the conflict have been the subject of scrutiny, both praised and condemned. Did he do enough to stop the Holocaust? Did the Church's silence enable the rise of fascism and the genocide that followed? Critics argue that the Vatican remained silent in the face of the Nazis' atrocities. While many world leaders condemned Hitler's genocidal policies, Pope Pius XII remained publicly neutral, never directly confronting the Holocaust in his speeches. Some claim his diplomacy was driven by a desire to protect the Church's interests in Europe and prevent retaliation against Catholics. Throughout the war, the Church was not a monolithic entity. Resistance came from various quarters, often at great personal risk. Figures like Father Maximilian Kolbe, who sacrificed his life in Auschwitz to save a fellow prisoner, and Archbishop Angelo Roncalli, later known as Pope John XXXIII, who helped Jews escape to Palestine, stand as symbols of courage. The Church, while divided, was home to many who risked their lives to stand up against tyranny. The debate surrounding the Church's role continues today, with new revelations emerging from the Vatican's wartime archives. While some documents reveal secret efforts by the Church to intervene diplomatically and save lives behind the scenes, others show a more complex and troubling picture. Did Pope Pius XIV's silence amount to complicity, or was it a strategic decision to protect the Church's global influence?
Pope Pius XIV walked a delicate tightrope. While his critics accuse him of silence in the face of genocide, it's important to understand the context in which he operated. The Vatican was surrounded by fascist regimes, and a public denunciation might have brought even greater harm. Nevertheless, this argument doesn't fully absolve the moral responsibility the Church had during this era.
Complicating matters further was the Church's relationship with fascist leaders. In Italy, Pope Pius VI had signed the Lateran Treaty with Benito Mussolini in 1929, officially recognizing the Vatican's sovereignty in exchange for support. Similar accommodations were made in Spain under Francisco Franco, whose regime was closely allied with the Church. After the war, the Church's role came under intense scrutiny. Many wondered why the Church had not spoken out more forcefully against the Holocaust or fascist brutality. Pope Pius XIV's reputation became increasingly controversial. Some hailed him as a quiet hero who worked behind the scenes, while others called him the Pope of Silence. In recent decades, the Vatican has taken steps to acknowledge its wartime failures. Pope John Paul II made significant strides in improving relations between Catholics and Jews, including apologizing for the Church's past inaction during the Holocaust. In 1998, the Vatican issued a document titled "We Remember, a Reflection on the Shoah," expressing sorrow for Catholics who had failed to oppose the Nazi regime.
While there were individuals in the Church who acted with great bravery, the institution itself did not do enough. The Vatican's silence during the Holocaust is something that will always weigh heavily on Catholic-Jewish relations. But it is important to recognize that dialogue and reconciliation have begun.
Today, the legacy of the Catholic Church during World War II is a complex and contentious one. It is a story of courage and cowardice, of quiet diplomacy and moral failure. While the actions of Pope Pius XII and the Vatican are still debated, the heroism of individual Catholics who risked their lives to save others cannot be denied. The lessons of World War II remind us of the importance of moral leadership in times of crisis. As we reflect on the Catholic Church's wartime role, we are reminded of the fine line between survival and complicity and the enduring need to speak out in the face of injustice. The Catholic Church's legacy during World War II is still being written through ongoing research, reflection, and dialogue. And as the past continues to unfold, one thing is clear: silence can sometimes speak louder than words.